Chat, we are back. I told you guys I was gonna be back. I told you guys I was gonna be back, didn't I? Yesterday we streamed some Dispatch. Today we're gonna react to some more true crimes. How are you guys doing today? It's cloudy Saturday where I'm at. How is it for you guys? Is it sunny? Is it rainy? What is it? So our first video we're gonna be back to is he held a middle school prisoner for years. Kabu Terachi. I don't know how to say that name. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to all the Japanese audience, but we jump into it. This video is found to contain a mistake. The correction will be listed as top of the description. Please check the description for any corrections if you feel something is amiss.
A college student kidnapped a junior high school girl and kept her locked in his small apartment for years. He practiced using hallucinogens and brainwashing techniques on her to make her his permanent pet. I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Scentbird. Scentbird is
No free sponsor. Fuck if you man, but no free sponsor.
all caps, $7.
To Oliver, eating here instead of buying.
These ads are fucking killing me. They're killing me, these ads. I thought it was Enya Verde for a second.
A normal man from Japan who was anything but. In his youth, Kabu,
Yo, believe it or not,
a seemingly
I have a Japanese fan who looks exactly like this. That's crazy.
normal man from Japan who was anything but. In his youth, Kabu was mostly a loner at school. He did well in class, but he didn't participate in any clubs and didn't really have a circle of friends. He started being bullied when he was a third-year junior high school student and began to isolate himself from his peers. This period of solitude was when he had his first real urge to capture and confine someone. To isolate himself from his peers.
My bad, I was checking if the video was good. Because, care about you guys. I want to make sure, the listening experience is up to par.
He wanted to really set them apart from society and the way that he felt he was. It's now speculated that he had some kind of psychiatric disorder at the time, but back then nobody really suspected anything. When Kabu became an adult, he seemed to act like he was very well put together. He got a lot of admiration from his peers and respect from his teachers. He seemed to be the natural-born leader type.
Okay, well-respected man, well-respected man.
But despite this, he was not without his faults. Not by a long shot. Those around him noticed that when he took an interest in something, he became obsessive, to a concerning degree, to a dangerous degree, even. He was able to hide it well, though. At school, he always excelled. He had fantastic grades and did well enough to enter Chiba University, one of the best schools in the country. He even studied abroad in Canada, where he did his best to learn English and study aircraft and flying in general. He even set out to get his pilot license, and it only took him 4 months to do so.
Damn.
Once his study abroad trip was up, he returned to Japan, and
This guy has talent.
about half a year later, he would completely snap and do something unthinkable. In February of 2014, although being completely unfamiliar with the area, he set out to Asaka City and Niza City, which were both more than 60 kilometers away from where his home in Chiba was located. He was looking for a place that wasn't really too rural and wasn't really too urban. He specifically set out during a time when a lot of nearby junior high and high schools were hosting events. I think you can see where this one's going. He came back to the area from March 4th to 6th and started scoping out the girls who were leaving school alone. He focused in on one certain girl and followed her back to her home, quietly. From the address plate on her house, he was able to make a pretty solid guess as to what her last name was, but he needed more information. He surveyed the yard of the home and found a homemade flower pot on which the girl's name was written.
Those lilies.
The yard of the home and found a homemade
Those are lilies, right?
flower pot on which the girl's name was written. The girl's name was Anna Sato. She was a 13-year-old middle school student only in her first year. But even this early on, she was already a member of the student council and active in learning ballet. The subject I was looking for was a middle school or high school student who was weaker than me. I thought
What do you mean subject, and what do you mean weaker than you? That's sus.
about how I could go about being undiscovered. I wondered about how she would develop over time. I wanted to see what would happen if I confined her, isolated her from society, and put her under severe oppression, said Kabu. While Anna was on her way back home from school one day, Kabu pulled up near her in a white vehicle as she was almost back to her home in Saitama. He had even gone as far as stealing a license plate to use on the car during the act. He gave her a grand story about how her parents were splitting up and about how he was actually their divorce lawyer, and asked her to get into the car to talk with him about it. Knowing her full name was likely what gave him the credibility that allowed her to get into the car in the first place. He continued on with his story. He said that her parents were actually deep in debt and well on their way to a divorce because of it. Not only that, he added, but they were so desperate that they were about to kill her and sell her organs for money. He then drove off with her in his car back to his home. After taking her home, he sat down and told her
He's gonna rip her guts out on some deformed shit. Oh my god. This guy's a demon.
that instead of having her organs sold, she had been sold to him to pay off her parents' debts. Several hours later, Anna's mom started to get worried when she didn't return home at her normal time, or even hours later after it got dark. She asked around, and the people in the neighborhood said that they had seen her talking to a young man near their home that day. The mother decided to call the police and formally report her missing. She later found a note in her mailbox, one that was apparently written by Anna and seemed to match her handwriting. I want to take a break away from my home and from school for a while. I'll be with a friend. Please don't look for me. Anna had been forced to write this under duress, ordered by Kabu to do so. Many tense, worrying days passed with no leads on where Anna could be. After 10 long days, another note arrived at the home. This time it read, "I'm sorry to trouble you. I'm doing well. I'll be home in about half a year. I'm with a high school student that I met online."
Okay, yeah. Saying, "Oh, I'll be home in half a year" through letter, and saying, "Was it? I'm with someone I met online." Too. That's very sus. That's very sus. If the parents aren't suspicious, well, L parents. What year does this take place?
It was confirmed to be Anna's handwriting. However, both her phone and her computer were searched by the police, and there was no evidence of her ever really contacting a high schooler in any capacity. The kidnapping became major news around Japan at the time. Her parents believed that she was taken against her will, but due to a complete lack of information, they didn't have much to go on. 2 years
Sure, you
passed
can't really go to the police with that.
without them ever hearing anything about what happened to her. Gradually, police efforts decreased more and more as leads petered out and no new information was coming in. Her parents felt as if the police had given was driving a patrol car and decided to ask them for help, but the car drove off before she could reach it. Defeated, not knowing what to do, she returned to the apartment on her own. She waited a while but decided to take one more shot. She ran out again and, this time, came across an old woman in the same park. She began to ask this woman for help as well, but the woman simply ignored her and refused.
I'm hungry.
We should order some fried chicken.
Italian.
Warring hands over.
Anna lost all hope to break free that day. Nobody seemed to want to help her. Nobody seemed to care about her situation at all. Being in this unfamiliar of an area was also terrifying, being a 13-year-old girl. Even if she were to run off, she didn't really know where to go to get help. For the time being, it seemed she was stuck. According to Anna herself, no sexual abuse took place throughout her entire confinement. She stated that no violence took place either. He fed her normally, usually with food he ordered online. She wondered why she was even there at all.
Food ordered online? Like not even the fast food type shit? Dude, well, I'm not sure how fast food works in Japan, but like, order online, like, what did you feed her, dude? I'm a little worried.
Was ready to fill her mind with a few answers as to why. Kabu had been preparing to confine a victim for years by this point. He had even researched CIA brainwashing techniques beforehand.
Yeah, dude, this dude just looks like the Asian Dexter. Low key. Wait, no, not Asian Dexter, my fault. Asian, Jeffrey Dahmer. He looks like an Asian Jeffrey Dahmer.
And along with
especially with the glasses and the look, oh my god, he's like looking straight at you, he's like...
Techniques employed by the Aum Shinrikyo cult that gained prominence in the 90s. He even researched none other than the Fusako Sano case that had ended about a decade prior. This case was a major motivation for him. When researching the brainwashing-related material, he became interested in hallucinogens. He found that the seeds of the Japanese morning glory plant can cause hallucinogenic effects to some extent, and they weren't too hard to come across. Kabu would often mix these seeds into the food he gave Anna in hopes that he could brainwash her more easily while she was under the influence. He would tell her, over and over again, that her parents had already abandoned her, that they had forgotten her, and that they had already moved on. He did his best to reinforce both this to her and that she was of no use to anybody. He forced her to write these things herself, over and over, until she actually believed it. "I was abandoned. I have nowhere to go home. Nobody needs me," she wrote, time after time after time. Later on in the confinement, Kabu noticed, among some of Anna's writings, that she had written, "I want to run away," on one sheet of paper. So he immediately went out and bought additional padlocks and surveillance items for the house. Everything to reinforce the locks that he had already had on the outside of the home, and also cameras that he could watch through an app on his phone. He even started transcribing every single conversation he had with Anna in an obsessed ploy to further understand her and analyze her. While Kabu was out on campus, nobody suspected a thing. He seemed completely normal. He attended classes, never missing any, went to seminars, and studied on the internet.
You never know, someone's, true personality sometimes.
At the library.
They could secretly be a serial killer.
He even went to overnight events and parties with his classmates without anyone ever noticing anything was amiss. He was never too much of a social butterfly, but his communication skills were pretty solid and he got along normally with those around him. In March of 2015, the Saitama Prefectural Police organized an effort to distribute over 8,000 missing posters across the area. Anna's father himself also participated in the effort. He said that he never imagined the search would carry on this long. However, the most important person to see these leaflets was Anna herself. While reading about the missing posters online, she saw that Kabu's words were all lies. Her parents didn't abandon her. In fact, they had been actively searching for her this entire time. She then felt the resolve to escape once again. While Kabu had been holding her in his apartment in Chiba for a few years, eventually he moved to Tokyo after graduating from school in March of 2016. By then, this had all been going on for about 2 years. Anna had developed severe post-traumatic stress disorder as a result. She was unable to do anything freely, as Kabu always had a close watch on her. But even the neighbors living around the apartment never noticed anything was wrong. His closest neighbor said that there was no sign of him having a girl living there or even having friends over at all. They never heard any strange noises, and he never seemed to buy more than one person's worth of groceries while shopping. People did notice that he bought a lot of cleaning products, but that was about it. Anna waited for her chance to escape, and toward the end of March, she finally found that chance. Kabu decided to go shopping in Akihabara, and when he did, he left the outside lock on the door unlocked by mistake. This was the first time that he had done so in a long time, possibly in about 2 years, so it was now or nothing. She grabbed a 500 yen coin that he had left behind, roughly $5, and a notebook that she thought might be able to confirm her identity somehow, and ran off. She ran out into the cold weather wearing nothing but sweats and sandals. She came across a nearby train station and saw the giant green monster payphones inside. She used the only money that she had to place a call to her mother. Her mom, in shock and overjoyed to hear her voice all at the same time, had to cut the call short to call the police. She asked Anna to find someone working at the station to keep her safe for the time being. The police came and were shocked to see that this was the missing girl who was all over the news a few years prior. They made sure that she was in good shape without any injuries. Upon confirming this, they placed her into protective custody and issued a warrant for Kabu's arrest. They soon rushed over and raided his apartment. However, Kabu Terauchi was nowhere to be found. He never came home and never contacted anyone he knew. The next day, Kabu finally resurfaced, all the way over in the Shizuoka prefecture, roughly 60 miles from where
So it was like the countryside, right?
the crime took place. He had attempted to take his own life with a box cutter, but he wasn't successful in doing so. He was bleeding pretty heavily from his neck, though. That was when the police received a call that a strange man, covered in blood, was wandering around aimlessly. They pulled up on him and found he was actually the man that the police in Tokyo were looking for. They took him to the hospital in the early hours of that morning. Once he was discharged, he was swiftly arrested and taken into custody. Following his
The new legal system.
arrest, his university revoked his recent diploma in shame.
Bring your agent into Monday.com. Your Claude.
Plans for a trial began to fall into place, and Kabu was pretty shook. He admitted to kidnapping Anna, but claimed that he only really confined her for the first couple of weeks. He said that after that, she stayed willingly, and he even left her on her own for most of the time. This wasn't completely a lie, but he's leaving out a lot of key information here. His lawyers came to his defense, blaming his childhood for what he had done, saying, the defendant was bullied when he was a third-year junior high school student and became solitary. He began to want to confine and observe someone set apart from society. They said that he very likely had an undiagnosed psychological disorder, which wasn't a surprise to anybody. They requested a psychiatric evaluation. Kabu chimed in, saying that he committed the crime due to instructions sent by his brain.
What does that mean? What does that mean? You can't just say, you can't just kill someone and say, I had instructions sent to my brain. What the fuck does that mean?
People would refer to those as thoughts. On the morning of the first trial in September of 2017, around 440 people gathered up at the courthouse to secure one of the coveted 20 seats in this
There's some ugly-ass sideburns.
highly publicized trial. Once the trial came up, Kabu was initially very apologetic, saying that he was very sorry for what he had done to the victim. When he was asked as to why he had previously referred to Anna as an examination subject, he said that it was because he felt that as if this wasn't necessarily a crime, it was more of an experiment where he treated the girl as a lab rat rather than a human being. By this point, Anna wasn't doing much better than before. She was still suffering from frequent flashbacks and had a rough time returning to a normal life after all she had endured for the last several years.
That PTSD.
She still suffered from periodic panic attacks, bouts of depression, a sleep disorder, and a general feeling of emptiness and dissociation. It was debated upon whether or not she should get an honorary middle school graduation certificate. Although she had gone through something horrible, the confinement did last throughout a major portion of the time she should have been in school, and she missed out on most of the education. In the end, it was granted to her regardless. Before the trial, her mother said that she wanted Terauchi to stay in jail for a lifetime. At the trial, Kabu started acting very strangely. He started babbling, spewing a bunch of nonsense, and telling the court that he was actually a fairy from the forest, that he was only an amoeba. He said that he was really hungry and needed to increase his
I'm a
amount
sea urchin from the ocean.
of fried chicken. He responded to questions with statements that were generally incoherent and meaningless. It wasn't known if he had actually lost his mind or if he was simply trying to get a reduced sentence. Either way, the trial was put off while he was given a psychological examination. It was found that he might be somewhere on the autism spectrum, but his inferiority complex was more notable and more relative to the case, or at least the prosecutors thought so. It was also believed that he could be suffering from schizophrenia, and a private doctor seems to have confirmed this. His defense asserted that he couldn't take criminal responsibility for the crimes due to his mental problems. In March of 2018, a district court finally sentenced Kabu Terauchi to 9 years in prison for kidnapping and holding Anna captive for 2 years from March of 2014 to March of 2016. They decided that Kabu was fully capable and that he was criminally liable, able to take full responsibility for his crimes. His defense strongly disagreed, mainly pointing out the schizophrenia, but what was done was done. Kabu was being put behind bars. While the defense of course wasn't happy, neither were the prosecutors. They argued that 9 years was far too low of a sentence for what he had done. By now, Kabu himself had mostly admitted to everything he had done. The presiding judge at the time, Satomi Matsubara, said about the sentencing, "The defendant was aware of the illegality of the acts as he made attempts to prevent them from being revealed, such as by attaching a stolen number plate on the car he had used to kidnap the girl." The court said that his claims of only holding her for a short while and that she willingly stayed after were frankly bullshit. It was very clear by Anna's state that she was disturbed and traumatized by the entire ordeal. Even if she had stayed willingly, it was due to the trauma and due to Kabu's brainwashing. The confinement lasted for a significantly long period of time, dealing an unimaginable blow to the victim by depriving her of her precious time, the ruling said. The reasoning the judge gave for handing down such a light sentence was that the physical confinement was moderate. The reasoning was that she should have left through a window and that Kabu would often go on trips where she was left alone for significant periods of time. The victim's account suggested that there was no physical violence or verbal abuse during the confinement and that the prison term sought by the prosecutors is too severe, Matsubara said. The prosecutors weren't about to give up on this. So fast forward about a year to February 1st of 2019. After a long fight from the prosecutors, Kabu was sentenced to a slightly longer 12 years in prison, which was longer than the pitiful 9 years it was before, but, you know. The prosecutors continued to assert that the previous sentence of 9 years was much too short for what he had done. He had kidnapped a girl, held her against her will, and traumatized her for life. It didn't matter if she wasn't physically or
kidnapping, that's a serious crime.
Sexually attacked. He took years away from her very finite life and has made it significantly harder for her to function in normal society from here on out.
He literally ruined her childhood.
They asked for at least a 15-year sentence, but this was the best they could get. It was an extremely cunning crime where the victim carefully manipulated the girl by calling her by her full name, which he confirmed in advance, said the new judge in the case, Atsuo Wakazono, as he handed down the ruling. Kabu Terauchi will be in jail for years. It would be nice if I could say that Anna is doing much better now, but unfortunately that isn't the case. We last heard from her a few years ago when she was around 16 years old. She is still very much suffering from the entire ordeal. She's trying to get help, but the severe emotional trauma is absolutely still there.
PTSD is a bitch.
To the crews that put the work.
W Radio. Dire trip. Dude, Kabu literally kidnapped her for years, taking her youth away. But she was like 12, 13. Like, bro. Like years of she could have been studying, getting to a good school, but she couldn't because her life was literally taken away from her by just Asian Jeffrey Dahmer. I hope she's alright today. So the next video I want to redo the voice dubbing game. Let me just get it for you. So I think what you do is This again? This goddamn son of a bitch. This again? This goddamn son of a...
This again? Goddamn son of a bitch.
Okay. This again? Goddamn son of a bitch. This again? Goddamn son of a... Okay, why is... Okay, I have to be faster, I guess, right? This again? Goddamn son of a bitch. This again? Goddamn son of a bitch. This again? Goddamn son of a bitch.
This again? Goddamn son of a bitch.
This again? Goddamn son of a bitch. This again? Okay, wait. This again? Goddamn son of a bitch. This again? Goddamn son of a bitch. Yeah, it keeps getting something off. Like, I can't cuss. Like, I can't say the B word. This again? Goddamn son of a bitch. This again? Goddamn son of a bitch.
This again? Goddamn son of a bitch.
This again? Goddamn son of a bitch. This again? Goddamn son of a bitch. This again? Goddamn son of a bitch. This again? Goddamn son of a bitch.
This again? Goddamn son of a bitch.
This again? Goddamn son of a bitch.
This again? Goddamn son of a bitch.
This again? Goddamn son of a bitch. This again? Goddamn son of a bitch.
This again? Goddamn son of a bitch.
This again? Goddamn son of a bitch. Goddamn son of a bitch.
This again? Goddamn son of a bitch.
This again? Goddamn son of a bitch. Okay. Next clip.
Taking my money like that, you cheating dog.
Taking my money like that, you cheating dogs. Taking my money like that, you cheating dog. Taking my money like that, you cheating dogs. Taking my money like that, you cheating dogs.
Taking my money like that, you cheating dog.
Taking my money like that, you cheating dogs.
Taking my money like that, you cheating dog.
Taking my money like that, you cheating dog. Taking my money like that, you cheating dogs. Taking my money like that, you cheating dogs.
Taking my money like that, you cheating dog.
Taking my money like that, you cheating dogs.
Why, the only reason you can even eat here is because of what I done.
Why the only reason you can eat here is because of what I done. Why the only reason you can eat here is because of what I done. Why the only reason you can eat here is because of what I done.
Why, the only reason you can even eat here is because of what I done.
Why the only reason you can eat here is because of what I done.
Why, the only reason you can even eat here is...
Why the only reason you can eat here is because of what I done. Why the only reason you can eat here is because of what I done. Why the only reason you can eat here is because of what I done.
I busted my tail to plant those crops along with my two good buddies.
I busted my tail to plant those crops along with my two good buddies. I busted my tail to plant those crops along with my two good buddies.
I busted my tail to plant those crops along with my two good buddies.
I busted my tail to plant those crops along with my two good buddies. I busted my tail to plant those crops along with my two good buddies.
We're the buddies you're talking about.
We're the buddies you're talking about.
Yes, sir, that we are.
Yes, sir, there we are.
We planted those seeds like there was no tomorrow.
We planted those seeds like there was no tomorrow.
You were always planting seeds of a different kind, though.
You were always planting seeds of a different kind, though.
You were always planting seeds of a different kind, though.
You were always planting seeds of a different kind, though.
Huh?
Huh?
So do you have any Bloody Marys? So do you have any Bloody Marys?
So do you have any Bloody Marys?
So do you have any Bloody Marys?
So do you have any Bloody Marys? So do you have any Bloody Marys? So do you have any Bloody Marys?
So do you have any Bloody Marys?
So do you have any Bloody Marys? So do you have any Bloody Marys? So do you have any Bloody Marys?
So do you have any Bloody Marys?
I only have beer.
I only have beer.
I only have beer.
I only have beer.
I got tomato juice.
I got tomato juice.
I got tomato juice.
I got tomato juice. I got tomato juice.
How much?
How much?
$30 million oolongs for 50 packs.
30 million oolongs for 50 packs.
30 million oolongs for 50.
30 million oolongs for 50 packs.
15 million oolongs.
15 million oolongs.
15 million oolongs.
15 million oolongs.
I'm in a hurry. I've got other customers.
I'm in a hurry. I've got other customers. I'm in a hurry. I've got other customers.
Show me.
Show me.
Show me.
Show me. Show me.
Show me.
Show me. Show me. Show me.
Looking for this?
Looking for this. Looking for this. Looking for this.
Looking for this?
Looking for this. Looking for this.
Looking for this.
Looking for this.
Looking for this. Looking for this.
Looking for this.
Do you know how much you're worth?
Do you know how much you're worth? Do you know how much you're worth?
Do you know how much you're worth?
Do you know how much you're worth? Do you know how much you're worth? Do you know how much you're worth?
Do you know how much you're worth? What?
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 $2.5 million woolongs, that's your bounty. I said you were a small fry.
2.5 million woolongs. That's your bounty. I said you were a small fry. 2.5 million woolongs. That's your bounty. I said you were a small fry.
You look surprised.
You look surprised. You look surprised.
You look ridiculous in that outfit. I thought you weren't after my bounty. You look ridiculous in that outfit. I thought you weren't after my bounty.
You look ridiculous in that outfit. I thought you weren't after my bounty. You look ridiculous in that outfit. I thought you weren't after my bounty.
There's no thrill in the cheap ones, Asimov, you know?
There's no thrill in the cheap ones, Asimov, you know?
There's no thrill in the cheap ones, Asimov, you know?
There's no thrill in the cheap ones, Asimov, you know? There's no thrill in the cheap ones, Asimov, you know?
There's no thrill in the cheap ones.
There's no thrill in the cheap ones, Asimov, you know? Almost done. We got 2 more after this.
I think you do better as a thief, bounty boy. Now hand it over.
I think you do better as a thief, bounty boy. Now hand it over. Jesus.
I think you do better as a thief, bounty boy. Now hand it over.
I think you do better as a thief, bounty boy. Now hand it over. I think you do better as a thief, bounty boy. Now hand it over. I think you do better as a thief, bounty boy. Now hand it over.
Glad to. I have to pay you back, don't I?
Glad to. I have to pay you back, don't I? Glad to. I have to pay you back, don't I?
This again? Goddamn son of a bitch!
This again? Goddamn son. This again? Goddamn. This again? Goddamn son of a bitch. 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 Taking my money like that, you cheating dogs? Why, the only reason you could eat here is because of what I done? I busted my tail to plant those crops along with my 2 good buddies. We're the buddies you're talking about. Yes, sir, there we are. We plant those seeds like there was no tomorrow. We always plant seeds of a different kind, though. Huh? So do you have any Bloody Marys? I only have beer. I got tomato juice. How much? 30 million woolongs for 50 packs. 15 million woolongs. I'm in a hurry. I've got other customers. Show me. Looking for this? Do you know how much you're worth? What? 2.5 million woolongs. That's your bounty. I said you were a small fry. You look surprised. You look ridiculous in that outfit. I thought you weren't after my bounty. There's no thrill in the cheap ones, as many of you know. I think you do better as a thief, bounty boy. Now hand it over. Glad to. I have to pay you back, don't I? I don't know why I paused like that. I guess we'll check on the investigator. Or while that warms up, we can check out the next video. Next video I have for you guys is the ultimate disturbing and vile anime fans iceberg. So guys, like anime fans, fuck. Okay, I ruined it. Okay, anime fans, they be weird as fuck, especially on Twitter. Oh, I'm sorry, X, whatever the fuck. But you got like anime fans, you know. I seen you at at your conventions. I seen online what you guys do. The freaking bath water. You guys are sick. You make me want to throw up.
Typically refer to people who are overly obsessed with anime, manga, and just Japanese culture in general.
I bet you just call me a nerd and otaku any day of the week.
Most of them live out their otaku lifestyle by going to conventions and buying body pillows, which doesn't...
The body pillows? Really? Like, imagine, right? This is the anime girl body pillow, right? Oh, I love you so much. You're better than real woman. Like, Like, what the fuck? That's what you guys do. That's what you sick fucks do. Oh my lord.
hurt anybody, except if you happen to smell them. But some otakus have become a little too obsessed to the point that they commit vile acts. And trust me, it gets crazy.
Our young generation is clearly lost.
Just imagine for once that you're a pretty smart student who has so far lived a pretty ordinary life. One day in class, you just happen to find a book that just falls out of the sky. When you go to pick it up, you realize that it isn't Harry Potter, which you could have sold on Craigslist, but something else. A book that is able to the person whose name is written in it. Now imagine you're also a hidden genius psychopath who decides to use this book to cleanse the world of all criminals. And because of all these sudden deaths of bad...
Oh shit, I forgot you guys can't see this shit. Okay. OBS, can you be normal for like 2 seconds?
Warning. This video.
Okay, this one's being weird. Sorry, guys. Okay, I can't connect to any of them.
You don't pay big brand markups when you buy Aldi brand.
It's an Aldi thing.
Sorry about that, guys. OBS was acting stupid.
Fan base of people who like what you're doing and call you Kira. That is the plot of Death Note, the second most popular anime ever. Light Yagami, aka Kira, plays the psychopathic dude on his murder spree while trying not to get caught. Now
He's basically a dude trying to play God, but he's not God. He's just a normal teenager.
there are tons of people obsessed with this anime and Light Yaga. For some reason, people
I
just
remember people were making Death Notes and making Death Note lists in school, and like schools they banned the shit out of that. They don't like putting people's names in Death Notes.
really like the whole psychopath genius type of character. At around 6 p.m. on September 28, 2007, 2 hikers find a human body and 2 legs in a park in Belgium. There's nothing else on the body, no personal items or anything that would identify him or the but 2 notes were found nearby with the message saying "Watashi wa Kira desu," which roughly translates to "I am Kira." Shit's crazy. A real dead person next to a Death Note reference. That was not the only mention of anime or Japan though. Once the police arrived, they also discovered a trail left by the killers in the form of a 160-foot line of rice that led to a symbol that is supposed to be something in Japanese. Not sure what it's supposed to mean though, I can't lie. Now the police had no proper leads at all. The detectives concluded that the body was either a few days old when found or had been stored in some sort of freezer. The thighs and his sack were cut with almost surgical precision, and the only thing that they could identify was the fact that it was a Caucasian guy between 20 and 30 years old. There was no missing person matching that description, and the only witness was some jogger who said that she saw some blonde man lying down in the area where the body was discovered. This broke the media, and so there were a lot of speculations that the police was just throwing around, such as it being a prank by medical students because of the surgical precision, and the date of the discovery matched the beginning of the school year. The University of Brussels argued though that it would be almost impossible for a whole body to just disappear without anybody noticing, so that wasn't a good lead. Imagine you could just walk in there, take a body, and nobody would notice. Wouldn't seem like a very safe university. Other people thought
people would just be killing left and right.
It might be the work of a psychopath serial killer that was active between 1996 and 1997, the so-called Butcher of Mons, where 5 women were found in garbage bags without the killer ever being identified. It got really crazy. Like, listen to this. The location of the victim was very close to the highest point of Brussels, possibly a symbolic location since Kira acts as a god of death in the manga. That was out of the actual wiki of the case. Might as well just say that Kira got reincarnated into this world. On November 24th, the police announced that they reached a dead end on the 2-month-old case, and the media was low-key geeked. A murder that nobody could solve, referring to Death Note, and they just wouldn't find any conclusion to the case. Until 3 entire years later, around September of 2010, the police managed to arrest 4 suspects linked to this case. 3 people for the actual and 1 person for failing to provide assistance to a person in danger. It turns out that the deceased person actually lived with multiple of the at the time of the disappearance. An argument broke out between them and the victim refused to leave the apartment when asked, and so it turned physical. They supposedly beat the person until he passed and tried to dissolve the body in the drain cleaner. Some vile stuff. When they came back some days later, according to one of the killers, it stank and was bluish, so they cut the body into pieces. They tried to burn it, but eventually decided to scatter the remainings in the park. In June 2013, 2 of the 4 suspects were convicted and received sentences of 20 years. A third suspect was convicted to 23 years since she went on the run after appearing in court for only 1 day. You've gotta be crazy if you're trying to run from this case. Now the real question is actually, why were there multiple notes saying I am Kira? Well, it turns out they were just really big fans of the manga and anime.
They read just like Killer.
And so they decided to leave them there. And they didn't even spell the sentence correctly. They wrote Watashi wa Kira desu, but it's supposed to be Watashi wa Kira desu. I'm no Japanese bro though, so I'm just repeating what my sources say.
Our young generation is clearly lost.
2015, Japan. Maya Tomita is 20 years old, studying business and pursuing her passion in the entertainment industry. She has already made a small name for herself by appearing in the TV drama Secret Girls, which was basically a show
She
about
was like an upcoming actor.
these girls living a secret double life as a Japanese idol group. Kind of like Batman, but with more singing and less fighting.
Is that not just Hannah Montana?
And crime, I think. But after doing a few side gigs
I'm
here
pretty sure that's just Hannah Montana, but like a Japanese on it.
and there, she decided to become an independent artist and musician. In order to gain popularity, since she was still pretty underground, she traveled to different restaurants and venues to play her songs. During these shows, she slowly builds up her following and meets a ton of new people, including Tomohiro Iwazaki. He's around 26 when
This guy's fat. I'm kidding. I shouldn't. I mean, I was a fat kid one time. I think I'm eligible to make fun of a fat kid. Yeah, I was a fat kid at one point.
he first discovers her. He is essentially the polar opposite of Tomita. Her professors describe Tomita as having this very bubbly personality and being very kind and outgoing in general. Iwazaki, on the other hand, has basically isolated himself for the past years.
Oh,
He
so he's an incel.
barely has any friends or social interactions in general. He's like the role model of 4chan users.
Just call him an incel.
His brother described him as unskilled in expressing his emotions, but also a gentle and childlike soul. From the first time he saw her, Iwazaki really liked Tomita, and she wouldn't be the first person he would later become absolutely obsessed with. The thing is, Iwazaki had a history of stalking idols and documenting their every move on his blog,
Like he would stalk idols.
where he would share all his thoughts and feelings.
Mission Control. The code awaits your command.
Yeah, bro just looks like he stalks idols. He has that look, that creepy look, you know what I'm saying?
And he was a very passionate individual. It would escalate to a point where multiple police reports would be filed against him for following idols in real life and sending them threats. But the worst crime would have yet to come. Like with all the other Japanese idols, Iwazaki quickly became infatuated with Tomita. He would start off as a passionate fan of her and her work, giving her chocolates and little gifts after her performances, which could still be seen as quite normal. I mean, fans give stuff to their idols or role models all the time. But as time went on, he became more and more obsessed. In 2016, after giving her various gifts ranging from flowers to weird-ass books, he built up this fantasy that they're gonna become a thing somehow. I mean, he gave her so many cool things, right? So Iwazaki would decide to
Parasocial relations. Parasocial relations.
propose to her in the restaurant she would perform at that night, with his biggest gift yet, a very expensive gold watch, along with random books.
Or
So
is it more like one-sided relations? One-sided relationship. One-sided relationship.
far, Tomita has been quite nice to him, accepting his gifts and all that, but she obviously couldn't marry this guy. They never even talked outside of her performing, so she rejected him. But she gave him his Twitter, so he could check out what she was doing more often, and somehow that seemed to satisfy Iwazaki. Although he was like very isolated from everyone essentially, and seemed like the perfect guy to run a Discord server, he actually only used Ameba. I don't know how to pronounce it, to be honest. A Japanese social networking and blogging platform. So getting access to her Twitters
Big brain.
seemed like something very intimate to him, although it definitely wasn't. And so he followed Tomita and a friend of hers, who also performed that night he proposed. Right away, this guy started tweeting like crazy. I'm talking dozens of tweets in a day. Also his idol and her friend. By now, Tomita was more than
Parasocial. Parasocial.
Creeped out and knew that if she actually responded to him, she would only feed more into Iwasaki's fantasies, so she just straight up ignored it. Her friend though initially replied to Iwasaki, since she probably didn't know that he literally attended almost every single one of Tomida's concerts and was just a creep in general, but even she stopped talking to him after a while, and being ignored for all that time kind of flipped a switch in him, which made his love for Mayu Tomida turn into hatred. He proceeded to spam her Twitter with over 400 messages telling her that she's looking down on him, that she's ungrateful, and he even threatened her life. In order to bring an end to all of this, she decided to return the expensive watch he gave her and blocked him on Twitter at the end of April. That would be 12 days before the attack. On the 9th of May 2016, Tomida decided to file a police report against him since she did not feel safe at all. The police didn't really do anything though, since it did not fall under Japan's stalking laws back in the day, and they didn't think that harassment on social media was a serious enough threat. Police really was on demon timing. They did not care at all. At this point, Iwasaki has gone police really
what anime is this? What anime is this?
Was on demon timing. They did not care at all.
Anime fans, what anime is this? I'm curious.
At this point, Iwasaki has gone absolutely mental. Because Tomida blocked him, he spam messaged her friends on Twitter, demanding all of the gifts back now. The chocolate, the weird books, the flowers, he wanted all of that back. Brody, how do you expect chocolate to be returned? But what can you actually expect from a guy like him? Even though this was a very stressful time for Tomida and all her loved ones, she had to keep it pushing. She was trying to make it as a singer after all. So on May 21st, she was set to perform at
trying to live her dreams.
An event called Solid Girls Night Volume 11. She publicly announced that she would be there, so she was obviously kinda scared that Iwasaki might pull up, and her worst nightmare became a reality. Before she could even enter the venue, Iwasaki confronted Tomida and asked her why she returned all of the gifts. Tomida was obviously frightened as a and gave a vague answer before trying to run away. When she turned around, Iwasaki stabbed her from behind in the chest and neck area 61 times.
61?
A 3.1-inch knife. He allegedly screamed, "You should die," while doing that. Eyewitnesses immediately called the police after hearing Tomida scream for help and arrested Iwasaki. You can see in the pictures, this guy doesn't seem to feel any type of—
He doesn't care. He's like, yeah, I did it. Yeah, I did it. I don't give a fuck. The bitch had it coming. I should have standed her more. 61 wasn't enough. Oh my god, I gotta go check out my cat.
Switch to Verizon Fios and get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube on us. Every out-of-market game every Sunday afternoon on 100% fiber internet. That's up to $480 in value.
I'm hungry.
We should order some fried chicken.
Italian.
Warring hands over chicken fingers. One's gotta lose this battle for dinner. We both want our favorite bite. Why can't we have food without the...
Wonder lets you combine 20 restaurants in one order. Everyone wins.
I won.
Wonder brings you food without the fight.
Boy's back. Your boy's back.
remorse or shock at all. This is a genuine psychopath, bro. Tomida was in critical condition, but God knows how, Iwasaki didn't manage to damage any vital organs, so she managed to survive and regain consciousness on June 7, 2016. She lived. Unfortunately though, her dream of becoming a popular singer has been destroyed, since she had problems even talking or using her hands. She also suffered from PTSD, so imagine going on stage with that. The police later on issued an apology for not doing anything when she was
This guy literally took away her dreams.
Literally begging for help, saying that they didn't know that the harassment was happening outside of social media as well. Iwasaki only received 14 years, but it actually
You should get life in jail for that shit.
led to Japan changing their anti-stalking laws to include online harassment on social media as well, so there was at least something positive coming out of this. Now this was an insane case of obsession, but this next case had even more casualties.
Our young generation is clearly lost.
Kyoto Animations is one of the greatest animation studios in Japan. It was the main publisher of a ton of insane animes, including K-On!, A Silent Voice, Free, and a bunch more. The company has multiple locations throughout Japan, but this story is about Studio One, the building actually dedicated to the animation side of things. It's 2018 and Kyoto Animation suddenly experiences an influx of hate messages. It starts off as threats and slander, but as time goes on, the messages develop into threats, even mentioning specific staff that are working for Kyoto Animation. This whole thing escalates to the point that in October of 2018, the company went to the police to investigate. The Kyoto police tried to find out who was behind these, at this point, hundreds of death threats, but couldn't pinpoint any person, as the creator used Tor to hide their information, kind of like the dark web type of alley. And so the police just kind of gave up. I mean, they're just empty threats after all, right? This would be the potential foreshadowing to one of the most tragic things happening in the anime industry ever. Shinji Aoba, 41 at the time, was staying at an internet cafe on July 16. According to Shinji Aoba,
Asian on age. I did not believe this guy was 41.
41 at the time, was staying at an internet cafe on July 16. According to eyewitnesses, he was seen walking around the area close to the animation studio, kind of just cooking up his plan, I guess. 2 days later, on the morning of July the 18th, Aoba walks into the studio, carrying 11 gallons of gasoline. He basically soaks the entire area, including several employees, before igniting it. He sets multiple employees on including him during the process. Right away, the fire results in an explosion at around 10:31 AM due to the gasoline mixing with the air or something. I'm not a chemist. And Aoba supposedly screams "die" repeatedly as he carries out his act. The fire grows by the entrance, as Aoba just walked in there, and it traps the entire staff inside the building. Some workers try to escape through the second and third floors, but the explosion caused the floors to be filled with smoke within 30 seconds, making escape almost impossible. 5 hours later and the fire is under control, but it's only extinguished the next day at 6 AM. The building had no fire sprinklers or anything due to it being classified as a small office building, which is crazy to think about. Now before I talk about the aftermath of all of this, which is absolutely insane, why did Shinji Aoba do all this? Did he not like the anime they produced? Was he just batshit crazy? Well, as I already said, he lit himself on too during the process, so he had to be rushed to the hospital with severe burns. While being transported there, he admitted to having started the fire, and he actually admitted doing it because of plagiarism. You heard me right? Because of plagiarism. He accused the studio of stealing ideas from his novel. Aoba had submitted a draft novel to the studio, but it didn't even pass the first stage of assessment and was forgotten. But he was still convinced that they stole stuff from his work. Now let me just read out the scenes that were supposedly stolen. His main accusation was that in the anime Tsurune, there's a character in episode 5 who buys meat at a 20% discount. And his novel also happens to have a scene where the hero buys something at a 50% discount. That's it. Now there are also some other scenes that were supposedly stolen. So in the anime Free, right, there's a scene where a school banner reads "Swimming Club advanced to regional tournament." Aoba's novel apparently included a few scenes where banners appear too. This guy's not serious. And the last one is where a character in K-On! Says to a junior, "I repeated a grade." And in Aoba's story there's a scene where a high school boy is told by his teacher, "If you continue like this, you'll repeat the grade." Those were all the scenes that were apparently plagiarized. It's not like they happen to have the exact same concepts in terms of story.
Whoa. What's that? I just built a budgeting app in Base 44. Guys, Nina just built an app. Impossible.
Or have very similar characters. They happen to have similar scenes, but they were completely different animes. The amount of times an anime girl punches a guy in the face, animation studios would be accused of plagiarism all the time. So let's talk about the disaster he actually created. 70 people were inside the studio at the time of the fire. 36 employees, most of them almost instantly because of the severe burns, and some of them because of the carbon monoxide a couple days later. Among some of the deceased were Naomi Ishida, a
36 people died? Oh.
Other designer who has worked for the company since 1992. She was the first victim who was identified as. Also, Yasuhiro Takemoto, who was an animator, scriptwriter, and director in the fire. He's worked at Kyoto Animation for almost his entire career. And Yoshiji Kigami, a giant in the industry, a veteran who has worked on films like Akira and Studio Ghibli's Grave of the Fireflies. The world of anime and Japan lost so many important people that day.
That guy's a legend. He was Studio Ghibli and it's like the Disney of Japan.
Because of this man, this event was one of the deadliest massacres in Japan since the end of World War II. Now Aoba was transferred to a university hospital and he received end of World War II. Now Aoba was transferred to a university hospital and he received all the necessary surgery to survive. After 4 months of recovery, he was able to talk and wasn't in critical condition anymore. He got artificial skin and the whole package. After recovering, he said that he regretted his actions and was thankful for the staff, who treated him better than anyone has ever before. Could have thought about that before doing that, big bro. On December 16th, he was charged with attempted and a bunch of other things. And it turns out the novel might have just set off this behavior, but wasn't actually the cause of it, since Aoba had a prior criminal history and suffered from mental illness. In 2012, for example, he robbed a convenience store with a knife and was jailed for 3.5 years. And he did that just because, I guess. This whole court thing takes quite a while, but in January of 2024, he was finally sentenced, and he received the death penalty, which he accepted. Pretty crazy if you think about it. They saved his life and proceeded to do surgery on him for months just to give him the death sentence. But I digress. After the attack, some of the employees who were involved in this tragedy returned to work at the other location of Kyoto Animation. But obviously some of them took extended breaks to deal with the stress and trauma, and the building was demolished.
Our young generation is clearly lost.
It's 4 p.m. The police in Tokyo receive a call that a man has been. Once they arrive at the scene, they find a person seated on the floor. It's an attractive young woman sitting in the lobby of her building, but her legs and hands are covered in blood. She's sitting next to the man who's slowly out, literally just chilling with a phone in her hand. That woman was Yuka Takaoka. When all of this happened, Takaoka was a manager at a hostess club. A hostess club is basically a place Japanese men go to get their ego stroked. They go in, the girls working there pretend like they're the king of the world and make them buy drinks and spend money. There's also some spicy stuff going on behind the scenes, but most of the time it's really just talking and drinking. Imagine feeling like Justin Bieber in his prime, but you just pay for that feeling instead. Takaoka's job was kind of just overseeing the place and trying to milk out as much money out of these men as possible. Now on the side, Takaoka was also a huge anime fan. Who would have thought? Whole videos about otakus. She would do the typical thing of cosplaying characters and stuff like that. Nothing out of the ordinary. There was one type of character though she seemed to cosplay the most, yanderes. If you're chronically online, you know what those are, but if not, yanderes are basically these girls in animes, or I guess also in real life, who are overly in love with somebody. Like that next level stuff. Anybody
like Nikki from Obsession
who gets near their crush gets stabbed and they become all crazy. That's like the whole story of the game Yandere Simulator, right? You're this girl who everybody and anything who stands in the way of your love. Now let's get back to the hostess club. Those are designed for Japanese men to talk to women, but there's also the female counterpart, host clubs. Women go there to just forget about reality and talk to young men. And in one of those host clubs, Phoenix Luna had just started working there as a host to make a living. It's obviously not his real name though. Even though he just started out, he actually managed to do pretty decently as a host. He was number 4 and for quite some time number 3 in terms of popularity, which didn't result in a lot of money, but it was enough to survive, since he was also able to sleep there. He just kinda had that nice look to him. I mean, he's not an ugly guy, nor did he. So one night, Yuka Takaoka decided that work was pretty draining as a manager. So she just wanted to relax a little and get some male attention. And so she went to a fusion nightclub, the host club where Luna worked at. Now it was just something about this guy that caught Takaoka's attention. And so she chose him to entertain her for the night. She spends some money, has a pleasant night, and then goes home. As transactional as it gets, basically. It's like somebody subbing to a big streamer. They get $5 and you get to see your name on the screen for a split second. But Takaoka just keeps thinking about this man, so she decides to return to the club over and over again. You gotta know, for the past years, Takaoka has only been focusing on stacking her bread, so she has some money to spend, at least for a while. So she goes in there and buys champagne after champagne, and the person who kind of makes her buy those drinks earns a commission, right? So Phoenix Luna is pretty happy about making more money.
We want to apologize to everyone who bought Loreen Co gum, because we lied. It's true, our gum is built around nanohydroxyapatite.
Money. After a while, Takaoka notices that Luna is only ranked 4 on the leaderboard, and so she decides to spend even more money on him to get him up those ranks. And I'm not talking about a few $100s here and there. She spent up to 10k a month on Luna, which got him to rank 1 on the leaderboard within a month. They spend so much time together that Takaoka builds up this fantasy that if she just keeps spending money on him, he would eventually be able to quit his job and they could be a couple. Some down bad fantasy right there. This delusion escalated to a point where she would pay him to go on dates with her and paid extra money so she could reserve him every time she visited the club. Now Luna obviously kind of plays along since he's making decent money at this point, and it's kind of the job of somebody working there to be like a pretend boyfriend. And Takaoka would kind of know that since she literally works in the industry herself, but I guess if you got those pink glasses on, you can't be stopped. She proceeded to rent a whole apartment near Luna's club so they can move in together, and I guess Luna kinda agreed to live there part-time. This is the part where she actually turns full-on yandere herself. She gets so jealous of his work
full cycle, huh?
that she tells him that every time he meets a woman who's paying for his services, if you know what I mean, he should call and tell her. Remember, this man is not in a relationship with Takaoka at all. She's just paying him to pretend. Imagine a tier 3 sub tells Pokimane that she can't get in a relationship because he's her biggest fan.
You ain't funny.
But Luna kinda plays along because he's a
Crazy
sweet
clever.
guy, and so he agrees to do so.
Elite Paul though, Elite Paul.
On May 23rd, 2019, Luna calls Takaoka and tells her, hey, I'm meeting with another woman, strictly business, you know what I'm saying? Just wanted to let you know, even though this is literally the exact thing she told him to do, Takaoka goes mad. So mad that she makes up a plan to self-exit. But she's also like, if she's going to, might as well take him with me so they can be happy in the afterlife. Kinda like Romeo and Juliet type of story. All this time, Luna obviously said, I love you and stuff like that to her, but even she knew
I love you.
that he just did that because he got paid to do so. And in her head, if they both passed, his statements might become a reality. So she pretends like she didn't just come up with the most twisted, evil plan ever and tells him to go over to their apartment so he can help her clean the place. After they do that, and also for some change, he takes a bath to just kind of unwind and relax. While he's taking a nap, Takaoka decides to snoop through his phone and finds pictures of another woman at the nightclub with him. Those weren't even explicit or anything, just photos that align with his work, right? Luna steps out of the tub to go to sleep in the actual bed of the apartment, and it's all good. That night, Takaoka waits until about 3:50 a.m. to ensure he's really asleep. She takes out a knife and stabs him in his stomach. He obviously instantly wakes up, shocked that he literally has something in his body, and before being able to push her away, Takaoka sits on top of him, asking him if he really liked her. I think in this situation, every guy would do the same thing, and he just tells her, I love you, and then pushes her to the side. He runs towards the elevator to try to get out of the building ASAP. And
I just gotta say, I actually do love you. I do love you. I love you. You don't have to kill me, right? You can put the knife down, right?
Takaoka follows him after grabbing some things. Luna loses consciousness though, and so Takaoka literally drags his body to the lobby of their residence and just sits next to him, waiting for him to die. Now a random woman just walks by and sees all of this and is shocked to her core. First thing you gotta do is obviously take a picture, and then she calls the police. In the picture you can see Takaoka on her phone, talking to God knows who without a...
That's like some Logan Paul shit. Just like, you see a dead body, oh, film it, oh, get that.
care in the world. Nobody does anything to stop her though, since they don't know what she's actually capable of. I mean, I would definitely not go near a girl sitting next to a grown man who's slowly acting like everything is sunshine and rainbows. And that brings us back to the beginning. Police arrive and arrest her, and she actually doesn't put up any sort of fight. While she's in the police car, you can literally see her smiling, like she enjoyed that stuff. Now comes probably the most obscure thing ever. Following this attack, Takaoka basically builds a huge following because she's somewhat attractive. Like, what? It's like the guy who ran over a
man, let's be real.
who ended up getting like edits made of him. She got fan art. People described her as
Okay, this is like people making school fan art of like school shooters in America.
Beautiful to be criminal and all of that. In December of 2019, she got 3.5 years in prison for attempted. Only 3 years for all of that. The good side is, Luna was able to recover from his heavy injuries. He regained consciousness 5 days after the attack, even though the doctors said that he only had a 20% chance of surviving. But obviously he wasn't able to talk, eat, walk, or do anything essentially for quite some time. But after recovering from all that, as far as I know, he actually came back to the industry. He still works in the same host bar, but it's like way more popular now since everybody knows his story. The one downside is that his liver doesn't work anymore, and so he can't drink alcohol, but he can probably live with that. And this guy's some kind of saint. Luna agreed to do an interview with some reporters, right? And he literally said that he fully forgives her for what she did. This guy's like an angel or something. Now let's talk about Takaoka. This all happened in 2019 and she got 3 years doing some basic maths, and she's been out there. And she actually posts quite regularly on her Instagram, still doing cosplays and stuff.
Say hello to Butterfly Shrimp, now on Faves for only $5. Love that chicken from Popeyes.
Let's test this Wayfair verified sofa. Assemble it.
Stuff like that. And she also streamed, like Pokemon and stuff.
Our young generation is clearly lost, man.
Junji Matsumoto was born in 1962.
Did she Pokemon? I love that game. Oh, man.
In, who'd have guessed, Japan. You could describe him as a typical introvert kind of nerd type of guy. He didn't really talk much, and when somebody asked him something in class, he would just straight up not respond or go to the bathroom as an excuse. He really was just in his own world for real. For example, one time in class, he was asked what he wanted to be when he grew up, and he just didn't say a word, probably just stared at the teacher. Later, when the classmate asked him in private what he wanted to do, he said he wanted to be a scientist, since he was pretty good at math and science. So he might have been a shy kid, but he at least had something going for him. He could focus on becoming a scientist and just live a normal life. Unfortunately, he would experience an episode of events that will lead him to kill both of his parents. After graduating high school, he secured a job for a little bit, but quit since he couldn't adjust to the workplace, probably because of his shyness or anxiety, and he just kind of stopped looking for jobs. Instead, he now spends most of his time watching anime, reading manga, and helping out at the liquor store that his mother runs, alongside his big bro. He has no sort of friends, and his family are really the only people he actually talks to. It's safe to say he doesn't really have any plan on what to do with his life, and he continues this exact lifestyle for 30 years. 30 years of watching anime, reading manga, and sometimes helping out at the store. And now comes the first unlucky event. His brother is hospitalized because of some sort of illness, which leaves Junji's mom and Junji to run the store now. But things just don't really work out after a while. Other corporations around the area slowly open up stores, Junji can't really operate things, and the parents are quite old now, so they decide to close the shop and retire. I mean, he's around 49 when this happens, so his parents are getting up there as well. Respect to the grind, but at one point you gotta hang it up, right? So they're both retired now, and his dad kinda runs the household since his wife is not physically able to do so. Here comes the second unfortunate event. On June 13th, 2021, Hirokazu, the dad, who's now in his 80s, just rides his bike when he gets into an accident. And you know how quickly older people can break bones and stuff. I mean, it's pretty crazy that he's even able to ride a bike at that age. But the father ends up being wheelchair bound nonetheless. With his brother hospitalized for 10 years now, and his dad being in a wheelchair, it is now fully Junji's responsibility to take care of his parents and the household. And he's overwhelmed. He suddenly has to attend to them 24/7. Every time they gotta go to the toilet, he has to help them. When they need to take a shower, he's gotta help them. And
Oh my god. I can't even wipe my ass in peace. I can't even clean my ass in peace. I can't even clean my dick in peace. Like, I have to get the dick cheese off my... I can't get the dick cheese off myself. I have to have someone do it to help me.
Like a retirement home is out of the question, since they do not have the funds to support that at all. Matter of fact, he uses the money that they saved up over the decades to buy the food and all that, since he hasn't had a job that actually paid him since he was 19. It really seems like a dead end. Now let's talk about the most unfortunate event. On June 20th, 2021, Junji was just watching his favorite anime. Probably like, my little sister can't be this cute. Enough with the jokes. This is really sad. He watches this anime to kind of escape reality for a bit, and his father asks him to help him to the toilet, as usual. But there's a really good scene happening right now, so Junji just tries to ignore him. His father really needs to go though, so he's kind of complaining and annoying him, if you can put it like that. He asks him over and over again, until Junji snaps. He's so fed up with his father that he grabs an electrical cord and just starts him. His dad kind of squirms around and tries to stop it, but Junji continues. And all that is left now is his father's soulless Junji doesn't just live with his father though, right? His mother witnessed everything as well. So in his head, he needs to get rid of her too. He's now left with two in front of him. He grabs them and puts them into the big ass empty fridge that used to be part of the liquor store. He shoves them in there and just tapes the door shut. Jesus Christ, bro, this stuff is disturbing. After the adrenaline probably kind of wears off, he realizes that he had just become a criminal, even though he just wanted to watch his anime. He does not want to go to jail though, probably because he wouldn't be able to watch his anime. So he devises a plan to escape. After the
You
incident,
don't have
he
anime in prison.
calls off all appointments that his parents had. He calls off the rehab for his mother, and he postpones the visit of the welfare guys who would have come to the home to check up on them. On June 23rd, he takes all the credit cards of his parents and withdraws everything he can out of there, and then he leaves. There's a mix of him riding his bike and taking trains, but he essentially travels from one side of Japan to the other side, sleeping in different hotels, motels, whatever he could probably find. While he's gone, his relatives actually try calling them multiple times, but obviously nobody picks up, and so after a while of calling them, they called the police instead for a wellness check. They knew that Junji was under a lot of pressure and was kind of, closed off, not really the guy to talk and stuff. So on June 28th, the police checks up on them. Upon entering the house, they notice this weird stench coming from the fridge, and when they open it, they find this. This is a 3D model of how the were inside the fridge. Damn.
Okay, he is literally sitting on deck.
So they find both of the parents, but they don't know where the last person is. Junji. I mean, in their heads, everything could have happened to him. He might have been kidnapped.
What should we order?
Pizza, tacos, gochujang chicken.
Phone race for the order tonight.
Or also met the same fate as the parents. So they ask around. They interview the neighbors and stuff like that. And they all tell them Junji was kind of acting weird lately. And somebody spotted him riding his bike. And that leads to a nationwide search for him. The police looks at security camera footage. They ask hotels and all of that. And through that, they actually managed to track him down pretty easily. On July 4th, 2021, they find him in a hotel parking lot in Kyoto. They first arrest him for leaving corpses without reporting it or something, which you obviously should do, but he quickly admits that he was actually the one who did them. And not gonna lie, this next part is just really, really depressing. During his trial, the prosecutor asks him about his family, and he basically describes how his mother suffered from a lumbar fracture. I don't know what that's either, but her back probably hurt so much that she said she didn't want to live anymore. And his father developed dementia in early 2021, and when he asked Junji to help him use the toilet, all that pent-up frustration and pressure just exploded, and he didn't care about the repercussions of his actions. During that trial, there were also talks about him having a personality disorder, which made him so shy and isolated from everybody, but that didn't really change the result of the sentence. On the 6th of, I don't know to be honest, because the article doesn't say what 6th, but I'm guessing on the 6th of July, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison for alongside some other things.
Our young generation is clearly lost, man.
Tsutomu Miyazaki started off like almost every single person on this list. He was born in 1962 in Japan, and during his childhood he kept to himself a lot. He was bullied in school and didn't have a lot of friends, or any friends. And the reason for that is actually because of something entirely out of his control. He had a hand deformity which made his hand appear claw-like. I couldn't find a real close-up of his actual hand, since a lot of people use this picture, which doesn't even have anything to do with this case, but you can kind of see his hand right here. Because he was kind of an outcast, he spent a lot of time reading manga and watching anime. And like a lot of pubescent teenagers, he also dabbled in spicy content and horror movies as well. But as time went on, he gradually started watching more violent and graphic stuff. But I'll get there. Now, although Tsutomu was kind of a loner, from the outside it actually looked like his life was pretty nice. He was born into a wealthy family. They ran a newspaper business and they were actually quite well known in the area. Additionally, he was a straight A student. He attended a very prestigious high school and was basically a 5-star recruit, but for academics basically. He wanted to study English to become a teacher. Pretty wholesome so far. But of course the outside often does not reflect the inside. People flex designer stuff even though they're dead broke. And Tsutomu felt the same way, dead inside. His parents were always working. They put so much pressure on him to perform well in school. He still had no friends, and the only person he actually talked to was his grandfather, who was basically raising him. And all that just accumulates over time. You can tell that he started to show cracks when his grades dropped, and they dropped dramatically. He went from a rising star to rank 40 out of 56, which is pretty bad if you can't tell. Now, the high school he attended was connected to a university, so if you do well enough, you can just kind of transition and study the thing you want to study. In his case, English, right? But his grades dropped so low that he couldn't get in, so he had to attend a random local college instead and decided to become a photography technician out of nowhere. And you really gotta remember these small details, because once I reach the end, all these little facts will have such a compounding effect. Tsutomu studied photography or whatever, and during this time, his obsession with weird media started growing. Apparently in college, he would take not so appropriate photos of female players on the tennis court and be an absolute fiend for spicy magazines. But according to him, they became boring after a while, since they black out the most important part. So he would go down the route of seeking more extreme stuff, such as media including people not of age. He really fell into the depths of full-fledged degeneracy. And this is only the beginning. At home, he still felt like nobody in his family really cared about his happiness or anything. They were only focused on material things and the business, which actually drove him to be quite depressed. And during that time, in the mid-1980s, so when he was in his 20s, he actually considered self-exiting. His grandfather managed to talk him out of that though. Unfortunately, in 1988, his grandfather would pass away. His only source of sincere human connection was gone now. The worst thing that could ever happen to him during this period happened. Simultaneously, his grandfather was probably the only one who kept Tsutomu's dark thoughts in check, so he had no person who would regulate him now. And considering that regulated means taking pictures of women, you can kinda guess where this leads. His change of personality was noticeable from the get-go. He began spying on his little sisters and attacked them when they confronted him. When his mother caught wind of it, she also said that he should watch less of his videotapes.
Okay, now are you an incel? You're a sweet home Alabama. You are... What's that word? What's that word? You love incest. You love incest. You sick fuck.
This point contained increasingly more vile and graphic stuff. Like the anime and horror tapes definitely were not the mainstream type, let's put it this way. He wasn't watching My Neighbor Totoro, okay? And in order to feel closer to his
he was watching more intense shit.
Grandpa, that he understandably very much missed, he would also eat some of
probably watching Gotham Slayer or some incel shit like that.
His ashes. But as crazy as it sounds, the worst has yet to come. It's August 22nd.
You, just you, building your app on base 44.
1988, and Mari Kono, who's 4 at the time, is just playing at a friend's house, and Tsutomu takes notice of this girl. I would really love to say that he just went on with his day and all is good, but instead he decides to lure her in his black Nissan, and he drives off with Mari. He drives for a while, and eventually parks the car under a bridge. For 30 minutes they just sit in the car and do nothing, until he decides to murder her, and does some unspeakable things after.
She's a child, dude.
Done, he dumps the near his house and lets it decompose, before keeping
Did he grape her?
some parts as a trophy in his apartment. He then decides to send a box to Mari's family, including several teeth, grounded bones, and photos of clothing. And I think you can imagine who they belong to. This absolute psychopath also sends a postcard that reads, Mari, bones, cremated, investigate, proof. This happens a total of 4 times. October 3rd, 1988, Tsutomu spots Masami Yoshizawa, who's 7 at the time. He offers Masami a ride, which he unfortunately spots Masami Yoshizawa, who's 7 at the time. He offers Masami a ride, which he unfortunately accepts. He drives to the same place that he brought Mari to, and
yeah, that just looks like a murder spot.
Does the same unspeakable things to her, takes her clothes, and returns home. December 12th, 1988. Erika Namba plans to return home from a friend's house when Tsutomu kidnaps her. He f***s her into his car and drives to a parking lot and takes pictures of her, of the inappropriate kind. Her was found 3 days later, close to the parking lot. On December 20th, Namba's family also receive a postcard that reads, Erika, cold, cough, throat, rest, death. June 6th, 1989. It's been almost an entire year now since his first victim, and he still has not been caught yet. Ayako Nomoto, age 5, is again just playing in the park when Tsutomu asks to take pictures of her. After doing so, because Ayako obviously doesn't think anything of it, she's 5 goddammit, he convinces her to get into his car where they could continue taking pictures. And again, he murders her. He does not let her rest though. He keeps her body in his apartment for the next 2 days and does unspeakable things until it starts to decompose. He also drinks her and eats parts of her to make it even harder for
Okay, not only you're an incel, not only do you do incest, Not only did you grape her. What's next? Necrophilia?
All of the families of the victims, he would
You also graped her?
keep sending postcards describing what he did to them in detail, and even call them regularly. When the families would pick up, they would just hear him breathing through the phone, not a single word being said. July 23rd, 1989, Tsutomu sees two sisters playing in a park, and he convinces.
Come on, you got 2 minutes left.
The
Fix
younger
yourself.
sister to
Fix
go with him.
yourself.
Again, he
Fix
starts
yourself.
taking pictures. But before this horrible cycle of suffering is able to continue, her father steps in and attacks Tsutomu. Luckily, her older sister who stayed behind ran to her dad to tell him what happened. Tsutomu was able to escape, but leaves his car behind. When he eventually returns, thinking that he's safe, he's finally arrested by the police, who waited there the entire time. But that is not the end. Just yet. When the police enter his apartment, they find a total of 5,763 videotapes, some containing anime, some containing horror movies, and some containing footage of his victims. Like the entire room was just filled with tapes. On March 30th, 1990, pretty much all of Japan knew who this man was, and it was a huge thing on the news. His dad, who apparently didn't know any of this beforehand, didn't bother to pay any kind of attorney to represent him, and his whole family obviously disowned him. During the trial, Tsutomu would really just yap. He blamed his alter ego for all the... He called him the Rat Man. This is a picture he drew to describe him. Bro really just copied the Chuck E. Cheese costume. The thing is, under Japanese law, people who are in the state of like insanity where they commit their crimes aren't punished in the sense of going to prison. Instead, they would be sent to a medical facility or something similar. So it was really just a question of, was he actually insane or just pretending to be to get his sentence reduced? During the interrogation, he talked about how the Rat Man was always standing next to him. And before he killed one of the victims, 10 rat men would just appear, and once they were gone, the victim was dead. Like really just trying to seem like he was insane, which he obviously was to a degree, but he was definitely also fully aware of what he did. There were 3 teams of expert psychiatrists analyzing him, I guess, and they all came to different conclusions. One deemed him as schizophrenic, the other team said that he had multiple personality disorder, and the third team said that he might have had a personality disorder, but was still capable of his actions, making him fully responsible. And the court ended up deciding in favor of the last team. And so on April 14, 1997, he was sentenced to death, but he was actually hanged in 2008. That was something, man.